Hello, Backstitchers. Okay, we are going to start on day 2 for Gus. Day 1 we've already recorded. That was just the supply list. So day 1 can be used for if you're doing Edna and or Gus. So today, day 2, we are going to be making Gus's head. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be working with the brown. It's the cowboy brown. We're not going to be mixing any colors or anything. We're just using the straight brown. So I had a piece of this left over from working with Edna for the spool. So we're just going to continue working with that. So for Gus's head, we are going to, depending on how big you want to make him, I've got a piece of clay about the size of a grape. So we're going to go ahead and roll that into a ball. And then I'm going to tilt the screen down. We're going to, on just one side of the ball, we're going to make it into a kind of like a teardrop. You can start it off by rolling on your mat or your cutting board, and then you can get that finer point by doing it with your fingers. So now his head is very simple, or the shape of his head. So when you get that teardrop shape, how you want it, like this, the end is going to be used as his nose. So all you're going to do is just push it up.
Love you.
Love you. So push it up. Just like that. So there's a side view, the back, and the front. Okay. So now that we got that, the shape of his head, with this tutorial, the Edna tutorial, I showed you how to make your eyes based on with doing balls of white and black clay. For this one, I'm going to show you how you can just insert black beads. So I got these at Michael's, and they're black glass beads. And the size for these are the 3mm round. So let's go ahead. Open. I'm gonna use, of course, we're gonna use 2. Oh, Lord. That's in the bowl over here. Okay. So when you go, you don't have to do this, but I'm gonna do it just to show you the placement. So I'm going to make a guideline of where his eyes are going to be. So if you look at, I made that line right there. So you're going to take your silicone point tool and make 2 holes right at that line on the sides. And you do this so you keep your eyes so they're even. One is not going to be higher than the other. Now, with the beads, when they string them onto the string, you have the holes on each side. So when you insert these beads, just make sure that the holes are not like up. So you're looking at the hole. You're going to insert the beads to where they're just going to set in where the holes are on the sides. And this, doing the eyes this way is very simple, and it's a lot quicker than doing it how I showed you in the Edna video, where you're rolling out the white and the black. I'm going to go ahead and smooth out those guidelines that I was showing you. And I'll do that with the you can use the ball tool, or you can use the I call it the flathead screwdriver. So you just smooth that. So now you have his face with his eyes. Okay, so now if you want to make his mouth right under his nose, you can take the tool, your silicone tool, that has the curve. It's like the half circle. All I do is right where the nose starts from the underneath, I just push in and push down a little bit. Just like that. And it makes a little mouth. Okay. So now that we have that done, we can, at this point in time, so when we attach the ears, we don't want to smush anything. So I'm going to go ahead and make the hole at the bottom for where the neck attaches. And I'm just going to go ahead and center that. And that's where you will set your head on top of the body. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set him aside for just a moment. Now, to make his nose, it's very simple. We're just going to cut off a piece of red. Just a little pea size, or actually smaller than a pea, about maybe like half a pea. And if you don't want just the bright red, you can cut off a little bit of the brown that you used for his head. And now maybe about a quarter of the size of what you made for his nose. So you smash them together, and you just work it together to incorporate those colors. mix them up really, really good. So that way you won't see any swirls or anything like that. It's just one color instead of two colors swirled together. Now, if it's too dark for you, or too brown, you can always slice off a little bit more red and mix it in there. Again, there's no right or wrong. It's all about your color preference. Like if you wanted a pink nose, you could go with a pink. But if you're going off of like your reference picture, Gus has like a kind of like a brick red nose. So that's the color that I'm going for. So that color is mixed up pretty good. So you roll it into a ball, just a tiny ball. Now, this would be the time where you decide what size, if you want him to have a big nose, a small nose. I actually like this size for him. If I compare his nose to his head, I like the size for that. So I'm going to keep it how it is. I'm going to poke a hole with my pointed silicone tool. Just like that. So now your nose, the bottom has a hole in it. So we're also going to set that aside. Now, to make his ears, we're going to go ahead and take a piece of the brown, maybe about the size of a milk dud, and we're going to cut that in half. Roll that into a ball. And we're going to go ahead and smash it down with your finger. And if you push directly on the top or in the middle, I would say about 90% of the time you come out with a perfect circle. Now, this is going to be one of his ears. And you can see in your reference picture that Gus's ears are a little bit big. So depending on how big you want his ears, which I think maybe that's a little bit big, I'm going to retry for a different size. So I'm going to re-roll my brown. Again, the size of a milk dud. I'm going to cut it in half, but then I'm going to take one of the halves and I'm going to cut it in half again. We'll roll them into a ball. And again, I'm going to press down on the top and the center. And these are about the size that I want. Now, since they stuck to my mat, I'm going to use my blade to pry them off. Now the side that I pressed down on, not the side that was on my cutting board, the side that my finger actually touched, that's the back. That's the part that I use for the back. And then the other side that was touching the cutting board, that's the side that I will be using for the front. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the pink clay, and we're going to use that for the ears. Now, because I'm switching colors, I want to make sure that my hands are clean and my fingers are clean, so we don't have any lessen the chance of color transfer. Especially because the brown is darker than the pink. I don't want, if the brown transfers onto the pink, it'll look dirty. So what we're going to do, now you can use the pink straight out of the package if you want. What I'm going to do is, I want a little bit of a lighter pink. So I'm going to take pink about the size of a pea. Then I'm going to take white about the size of a pea. Actually, I'm going to take white about the size of a pea, and then I'm going to take half the color of the white, half the size of the white for pink. I'm going to mix them together. For me, now like I said, if you don't want to mix your color, if you just want to use it straight out of the package, that's fine. I just want to, for the inside of my ears, I just want a lighter pink. So you're going to smush and smash until your colors are well mixed and you don't see any swirling. So so we went from this pink to this pink. Let's see if I can. See the difference? All right, so your goal to get the insides is, at least for me, I like to have just a little tiny rim of brown around the pink on the inside of the ear. So I'm going to roll this into a ball. And then cut it in half. Roll those into the little balls that you need. Push down. Man, where did it go? want to know where my piece of parchment paper is. Where is that? Hold on, give me a second. Watch out right there. Oh, excuse me. Okay. So I'm doing this on my parchment paper because it's sticking to my board. But you're going to do the same thing where you make a dot. And it should be smaller than your actual ear. Okay, so once we got that, what we're going to do is we're going to I'm going to place that pink right inside of the brown with the ring going with brown just around it. I'm going to do the same thing for the other ear. I'm not really concerned about the very bottom having the brown because we're going to be folding it a little bit. So you really won't see it. So okay. So now we have our second ear. For what? No, put that back. Yeah, that's not yours. Put it back. No. I want it on the counter. Okay. Love you. I'll see you tomorrow morning, okay? Love you.
Also, where's Daddy?
He went to the store real quick. Okay. Sorry, my daughter is getting ready to go to bed. So now that we have the ears put together, we're going to take your ball tool and good night, love you. So this is number one. This is the smallest and then the next size. And then you have your second one, which they go in size. So I'm going to take number 2 at the biggest end, and I'm going to form that ear to give it the curve around the ball. And once you got it, peel it off. You might have to dip your put a little bit of cornstarch on your tool so it doesn't stick to the metal. Okay. See, and then you got ear number 1. Do a little bit more cornstarch. Make it even. Rub it on the actual ear. And form your ear around the ball. And you do this for most of the ear. Now you'll see there I have a tip where it comes to a point, and that's going to be the bottom of your ear. See, it kind of looks like an ice cream cone. So when we attach this to the head, we're actually going to flatten out a little bit the bottom down here where it comes to the point. Flatten it out a little bit. On both ears. I cut the ear off at the point a little bit. Because some of the pink might have squished out. We're going to turn the head around. Be careful you don't smush the eyes. And position the ear. Now, again, you position it wherever you think it looks good. But for me, if you look, his eye is in the, like, it centers with the middle of the, like, his eye is in the middle of his ear, if you draw a line. And do the same for the other. Okay. See? And so far, you have your mouse head. So Gus has a green hat. So we're going to break out your sea glass. Again, you can use it straight out of the package, or you can mix it. I'm going to cut off a piece about, again, probably about the size of a small grape or a milk dud. To go with, like, I'm actually gonna just use it straight out of the pack. I was thinking about mixing some brown in there to get it to darken up a little bit, to give it more of like an earthy sea glass, but I actually kind of like this color. So now what we're gonna do is, again, roll your clay into a ball. And you're going to make a point. We're going to roll this into a point. However, you're going to set it down and make kind of like a Hershey kiss. Okay? Now, once you have the shape that you want, you're going to take your ball tool, again, the size, the second smallest tool, the biggest end, and you're going to form your hat, or you're going to make the bottom of your hat with an indentation, kind of like a real hat, where your head goes inside. And this is going to look like kind of like a gnome's hat. So while I have the hat on the ball tool, I'm going to take, you can use your silicone tool. I would prefer to use something thinner. I'm just going to use my straight pin. And where in the middle, where it starts to taper up, I'm just going to go and make, not push all the way through, but I'm going to make a line, just kind of like how I did on the face. I'm going to make one there, go right above it and go halfway. Stop halfway. And then go above that one, starting the other way, and go halfway. It gives it that, like a crease in the clothing, like where your arms bend. You see what I mean? And then take your hat off of your ball tool. If you need to reshape it a little bit, now is the time to do it. Then you're going to stick your hat on your head. And again, this is all where you prefer it. I'm sticking mine between his ears, and the back will be covering where his ears are attached to his head. Now, when you make those creases in your hat, all you do is you just push it forward a little bit, and it gives it that little, how his hat is folded over at the front. Now, Gus has a little tuft of hair in the front. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some of your brown. And again, this is all up to you. Like how much hair you want. how big you want the tufts to be, that type of thing. But all you have to do really is roll it out and then fold it in half. And let's see, it kind of goes off to the side a little bit. So we're going to place it by the ear, the first one, and then down the middle a little bit, right? Take your flathead Phillips screwdriver is what I call it, and you just tuck it by the beginning of the hat and the ear. So it kind of looks like it's coming out from under the hat. Now, me personally, I have tried to put the hair on first and then put the hat on, but it doesn't sit right because the hat's not sitting flush on the head. So I just add the hair after I put the hat on. And the hat still sits flush where I prefer it to be. You can do it the other way if you want. Like I keep saying that, you know, there's no wrong or right way. A lot of everything that I've learned is just sitting here playing with clay, watching tutorials. Let's keep doing. You want to go out? Here. Oh. So we're doing another tuft of hair. Same thing as before. I just rolled a piece out and then folded it in half. And the reason why I'm doing that is because you can, where I fold it, you can see that there has little lines. So it just gives it more of like a hair look. At least to me anyways. And then we're going to do this one more time. With a piece of hair. Roll it out, the points on the end, and you just fold it in half. And stick it on. Okay. Now you have his hair. I know my lighting really sucks in here. I've tried to. Okay. Now he does have little eyebrows, so I'm gonna take a tiny, tiny bit of black. I'm gonna roll it out very thin. This piece of little black will be thinner than your sewing needle. To make sure that they're basically even on both sides, I'm going to roll it out, that little piece right there, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm just going to roll that end so it's a little pointed. Take your pointed silicone ball or your pointed silicone tool and lay it right above the eye. Once it's set on your clay, you can move it around with the point. So I want there to be a little arch, so I'm going to push the ends down. And just give it a little tiny. Do the same with the other side. I always think like the face or the head always takes the longest. Now I'm going to make sure that my smile is still there. I'm just going to reinforce what I did with my pointed ball tool, or my pointed silicone tool. This is what his face looks like so far. So now what I'm going to do, his head is basically done, and we're pretty much ready to pop him in the oven. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to tip him over a little bit. The hole in the bottom of his head got a little squished, so I'm just going to go in and make sure that that's open back up. And the last thing we do before we pop him in the oven is we're going to put his nose on. So make sure that the bottom of the nose is opened up. We're going to take a little bit of your bacon bond, your clay bacon bond. We're just going to put a little drop inside. Fill it maybe halfway up. And then we're going to set the nose right on top. Now this will bake clear, so if any does seep out, it's not really that much to worry about, but if you want to be clean and maybe clean it up a little bit, you just take your skinny paintbrush and just wipe that off. So here is Gus's head. we're going to go ahead and put his head in the oven. When you put him in the oven to cook, you want to make sure you're putting them on a piece of parchment paper, because if you set them directly on the pan, when you pull him away, there'll be a where basically the clay forms to the pan. It'll have like a really shiny flat surface to it. Putting it on parchment paper, it will prevent, it'll look, you don't put the parchment, it'll look like metal. It'll get really shiny. Putting the parchment paper underneath it, it'll prevent that. When we pop him in, we're going to cook his head at 200 degrees for, I would say, about 5 minutes. We're not cooking his head all the way. We're just going to do a soft bake. So that completes day one, Gus's head. Tomorrow we're going to be building his body. And then day 4 we'll be building the base, and then day 5 we're going to go ahead and add the frosting to the base and attaching Gus to the pincushion. So I want to thank you for joining me for day 2, and I look forward to seeing you on day 3. So thank you very much, and I'll be back.